Life Audio.
Hey, Merry Christmas and welcome to our new God's Love for the Unlovable and Gospel Rant series and format. We're calling it the Vagabond Diaries. It's going to be a book in 2025. But we want it to be fun and informative and relevant and relatable and life-changing, gospel immersed. And something that people might be excited about passing on to others, even non-Christians, to laugh and cry together a bit, for young people to listen to, right? So instead of being a typical biblical exegesis that I've been doing, we're telling stories. And we hope that people find it just fascinating, right? Our goal is to make us see truth through a different lens and then get the dialogues beginning, which means some of these may actually bother you how we say them. It might just tick you off a little bit. That's okay. Just get in the dialogue and let's learn something new about Jesus, about the gospel, about the kingdom, about ourselves. Here we go. What if the angel appearing to the shepherds happened in the Wild West in the late 1800s? Huh? Fun, right? I hope that this brightens your Christmas holidays. And by the way, as always, check out my award-winning young teen fantasies. They're being compared favorably to Chronicles of Narnia. Your kids will thank you. It's available on Amazon, Kindle, and Barnes & Noble. The first one, Tale of the Unlikely Prince, is on Audible. The other two will be on Audible soon, but you can get them on Amazon and Kindle already. Today's Vagabond Diary, Shepherd's Men. Let's have some fun. Welcome to God's Love for the Unlovable and Gospel Rant. We'll get right back to this week's Vagabond Diaries after this message from our sponsors. Welcome back. Shepherd's Men. Shepherd, we have heard some very troubling rumors and innuendos about you and your cowboys recently, said the head of the deacon board at Capital City Cathedral. He was a portulent man with a round, broad head and no chin to speak of. He was dressed in a dark, broad overcoat and bow tie. Trinity Ranch enjoys an exclusive contract for beef for all of our members. You are aware, the head deacon asked Shepherd, who was sitting with his key ranch hand. No one knows the ranch hand's real name. They just call him Stretcher because of his long, thin legs. Yep, said Shepherd Dimwitty. Shepherd just didn't say much unless he actually had something to say. Shepherd Dimwitty is a middle-aged, successful cattle rancher with a rugged, sun-weathered face and muscular build. At 48, he wears worn denim jeans, faded plaid shirts, and sturdy boots. His signature big cowboy hat shields his eyes, completing the look of a man shaped by hard work and tradition. He was the owner of Trinity Ranch and provided almost all of the beef for Capital City. That contract means a great deal of revenue for your ranch, doesn't it? Asked the deacon. Yep, said Shepherd succinctly with no emotion whatsoever. And are you aware of our close relationship with the governor? Inquired the deacon. I certainly am. None of my business exactly, said Shepherd. Pretty long answer for him. And yet, the deacon rose for effect, you recently supported insurrectionists from up north beyond Abilene who came here to disrupt and overthrow the government. What do you say about that? I'd say that you're as nuts as a prairie dog on loco weed, replied Shepherd. And about as smart, quipped Stretcher quietly to Shepherd. Shepherd smiled without taking his eyes off the podium of the church, around which were seated a number of church and governmental uppity-ups. You got anything else to say in your defense? Nope, said Shepherd, shaking his head slightly. Now it was the governor's official representative who spoke up, sensing that the audience, which was really an unofficial yet very public trial, was losing its authority. Mr. Dimwitty, may I call you Shepherd, said Obadiah Rightly, the governor's aide-de-camp. He was dressed in a fine brown suit, striped pants, and bolo tie adorned with a large, obviously costly turquoise clasp. Nope, you mayn't. That's for my family and friends, and you ain't neither, Shepherd said matter-of-factly. Then, with a practiced motion, he spit a quick, fluid gesture, and the dark stream of saliva arced towards the old, well-used spittoon resting at his feet. The sharp, wet plop was a brief, almost musical splash that echoed in the stillness of the wide-open courtroom. "Fine," said Obadiah rightly, the government's aide-de-camp, his eyes furrowed, reading his notes. "Let me ask, then, on the night of December 24th this year, did you and your men abandon your entire herd to coyote and thieves, jeopardizing the provision of beef to the residents of Capital City, to ride to God knows where?" He paused, searching his notes. "Bethlehem, sir," said the governor's assistant sheepishly. Gabe was a thin, nervous man with thick round glasses, hair waxed up and parted down the middle. It looked like Shepard could eat him alive if he was of a mind to, which he wasn't. Obadiah recovered quickly and continued the interrogation. "To Bethlehem, of all places? Is that rumor true?" "Yep," Shepard spit again. Twang sounded the wad hitting the metal vessel. "Which part?" asked Obadiah. "The exposing your helpless cattle to the wild, or taking them all of your cowhands and wranglers to Bethlehem?" "Both." "Can you explain yourself, sir?" said Obadiah, taking his glasses off for effect. "Yep." Long pause. Well, please do so, and in detail, please," Obadiah said, moving his hand in circles to speed up the so far very short answers. "Well," said Shepard, rubbing his forehead, impatient with this whole thing and looking forward to getting out of Capital City. "Like I told the deacons, we were just doing what a big old angel told us to do. That's just about it. We figured that would be a smart thing. If we wanted to, we could have put up a fight, I suppose, but none of us were of a mind. He had a big old sword, and we all figured he knew how to use it." "So, you would have us believe that an angel of God appeared to you?" "I don't care a gnat's behind what you believe," said Shepard again with no noticeable emotion. "It just was." Obadiah cleared his throat, likely to sound professional, but it was not successful. "So, you risked the entire beef supply of all of Capital City for that?" he said with some exasperation and a waving of hands. "Yep, about right. We'll do it again. Figured the angel had the rest taken care of, s'pose. Didn't appear to be one to be messed with," he said, raising one eyebrow, which for Shepard meant that the matter was closed. Did he say that? The angel, did he say any of that?" "Nope, and didn't feel like it was something to ask." The cowboys who came with Shepard were standing against the back wall, and they chuckled at that. He spit again. Twang. The interrogator changed tact. "Sir, did you know that the couple you visited in Bethlehem are suspected terrorists, supporters of an insurrectionist group from up north that wants to unseat our blessed governor?" "Don't know nothing about that," he said as he adjusted his 10-gallon hat on his 10-gallon head. "So tell me then, what was the nature of your business there in Bethlehem?" Shepard didn't appear to be impatient, but all the cowboys knew that he had his limits, and no one wanted to find out what his limit would look like. He wasn't much for being interrogated, and that's for sure, but he took his hat off and cleared his throat to say more than he has said in months. "We were in the middle of a trail drive on the way to Capital City with 1,000 head. It was late. We were sitting around the fire in our skivvies, eating horrific beans and pork and drinking some rot gut from the wagon cookie." Cowboys got a big laugh out of that. "And all of a sudden, the sky lit up like a prairie fire. I swear I almost wet myself." More chuckling. "But I didn't." He grinned slightly, looking around at his men. "And that's my story." He spit again. Twang. "All of my men were there." He pointed behind him. "They'll tell you the same thing. Then we all saw an entire army of them flying soldiers, angels. The lead one says, 'We are angels of God Almighty himself.' Well, dag burn it, he had our full attention. The horses got all spooked and ran off. It took hours to gather them. The cows were ready to stampede, burst out of that temporary pen. Sir, Please get on with it. Get to the Bethlehem part, said Obadiah, waving his hand dismissively and impatiently. Right. The head guy said the Savior and Lord had just been born in Bethlehem, and we were supposed to drop everything and hoof it down there to find him. Are you suggesting to this hallowed group of Christians, said Obadiah sarcastically, that you were chosen by God to go and see this supposed Messiah? Yep, hard for me to wrap my head around too, but there it was. So we went. Mr. Dimwitty, do you go to Capital Central Cathedral or any other church for that matter? Nope, ain't never had any need to go to the cathedral. Been once, but wasn't very welcome. People looked all stink-eyed at me and my men, and ain't been back 'cause I just don't plan to. So you you have never been to church to worship God, but this angel came to you? Can you explain that? Nope. I figure that's your job, isn't it? The cowboys chuckled again. Order, order, said the chairperson, the Honorable Head Deacon Oliver Melancholy, with a bang of his gavel. Okay, then, back to your absurd story, said Obadiah. Then what did you do? Well, I sent Roger over there to get a couple of others and find our horses, and in the meantime, we packed up as best we could, let the cattle out of the temporary pen so they could eat. Weren't sure how long we'd be, doing the Lord's business. He said the last part very exaggerated, and making sure he looked into the eyes of everyone at the podium. He grinned broadly, now enjoying himself a bit. The cowboys behind him laughed out loud again. Order! I will have you thrown out if you don't act civilly and respectfully, said Melancholy, flailing his arms a little too much. The cowboys couldn't suppress their laughter again. Well, continued Shepherd, then we just did what the angel said. We hoofed down to Bethlehem to see what he ordered us to see. And what did you see there? Asked Obadiah. Well, it took us a bit to find them. The couple were in the back woodshed of the Star Motel there in Bethlehem. The Star Motel, interrupted Obadiah. It's a known drinking and prostitute establishment, if I am correct. Well, you tell me. It sounds like you might know. I'm just a cattle guy. The entire audience now laughed at Obadiah's expense. He blushed a deep red that only made the laughter go on longer. So go on, ordered Obadiah, trying to regain the show. Well, right there in a small back closet was the mother and father and baby. The father was a huge guy, Mason, he said, muscles everywhere, a working dude for sure. The mother was a tiny little thing, not unattractive, but wore out by the whole mess, to be sure. When we told them about the angels, they weren't terribly surprised. It was like they were expecting crazy stuff like that. Did they tell you about the insurrection? Asked Obadiah with a raised voice. Plots against the governor. Did they try to recruit you? Nope. She just breastfed the baby. We left the room to give her some dignity. And like I said, it was just a small, dirty storage closet. Not a lot of insurrectionism going on that I could see. Any of you boys see any insurrectionism going on down there? No, sir, said the gang in unison. Did the husband, what was his name? Obadiah began to ask. Joe, that's what he told us, answered Shepherd. Well, what did this Joe tell you about the insurrection? Oh, all Joe told me is that the same angel told him not to divorce the child's mom. She had been impregnated by God, he said. Are you kidding me? Said Obadiah, rising and making a horse's butt out of himself. How unlikely is that? You know this Joe isn't from Capital City. He isn't theologically trained. How dare he say that? You believed him? Well, my daddy said if it quacks like a duck and walks like a duck, it's most likely a duck. What does that have to do with all of this? Asked Obadiah in some frustration. I think the boss just called you a duck, said Stretcher, looking directly at Obadiah with a wide grin. The entire audience, cowboys and everyone else, burst out into laughter. So, are you telling this esteemed audience that you, Shepherd Dimwitty, believe this guy? Seemed like an honest sort to me. So did she. Neither said very much. They didn't know what to make of it either. So then what did you do? Well, we all took turns holding the baby. He spit up on Ralph over there. Ralph blushed and grinned sheepishly. Then we had a mind to tell the other folk, about the whole thing. You mean you went and fomented insurrection yourself, don't you? Said Obadiah. First of all, said Shepherd, shaking his head again slightly, I don't know what foment means. It sounds like the stuff floating on the surface of the thick coffee that Cookie makes for us. The cowboys laughed again, really enjoying themselves now. But it weren't about no insurrection. We went to tell people about the angels and the baby. Didn't mention the governor or Capitol Cathedral or nothing else. So, let me see if I got this correct, said Obadiah, channeling his inner prosecutor. Then you did the smart thing and you came to this church, the church leadership's right here, and the Capitol building and all the governor's people to tell them what you've learned about the insurrection. Boy, there you go again. I don't know why you sat on that particular stick, but everyone knows that nobody in either place would listen to us. So where did you go? He asked with false interest. Well, we went down the street to the fine establishment, the Star Saloon, and bought everyone a round of drinks, and then told them what we saw and heard. Did they believe you? Said Obadiah, shaking his head. Can't rightly say, said Shepherd. So then did you or some of your men then associate with some girls? Oh, said Obadiah, emphasizing the girls. You mean the whores there? Said Shepherd with eyes raised. I do, confirmed Obadiah. Well, I wouldn't put it past a few of the boys. What do you say, boys? Did any of you associate with the girls there? No one was willing to confess to anything of the sort. Well, looks like nothing of the sort happened. The cowboys chuckled under their breath. So, hypothetically, if any of them had associated with any of the working girls there that night, might they have told them about the angels and the baby too? Shepherd looked over at Stretcher with a curious look in his eyes. Boss, hypothetically kind of means, let's say it did happen, but it don't mean that it did. So Shepherd shook his head and smiled. Well, hypothetically, Shepherd said it like he liked the new word in his vocabulary. Well, I suppose that might have likely, because a lot of talk goes on, among other things I hear. And if it did happen, might the girls also have believed your wild story? Whoop, can't say. Too many ifs in a row, hypothetically speaking. Obadiah took a deep breath, clearly preparing to blow the top off the proceedings. Mr. Dimwitty, have you heard that the governor has gathered a posse of honorable citizens of Capital City to go and find that family and arrest them for suspicions of insurrection? You mean hang them, don't you? He said with eyes furrowed in disgust. Well, to quote you, can't say, but the governor and all of his judges take insurrection very seriously. Well, I bet you do. He spit one last time. Twang. Well, you better get going. They left for Mexico a couple of days ago, and ain't a lot of chance you'd catch up to them now. What? We heard they only had a old flea-bitten mule for the three of them. Oh, I forgot to tell you. We traded that mule for a couple of our best horses. Seemed like a good deal at the time. You gave them horses to get away? Didn't say nothing of the sort. I said that we entered into a bargain with them and traded their sturdy, well-experienced mule for a couple of uppity, too fast for their own good horses. Don't have any need for such arrogant horse flesh, Can always use a good mule, though. And, look, seeing that you got nothing on us here, can I get back to the ranch, or all Capital City is going to be eating Brussels sprouts for Christmas? It seems to me that you're just way too scared of an insurrection full of cowhens and lady professionals. Well, all I got to say is Merry Christmas, y'all. The end. Let's talk about Shepherd's Men after a few words from our sponsors. We'll be right back. So here are some dialogue starters that I thought about. First of all, pushback. What do you think? What hit you? What bugged you? What What did you find funny? Did it shine some fresh light on the Christmas story? The one in the Bible. And why this is the important one, why did God choose shepherds with the message so important? So if you like this Vagabond Diary, please like it, subscribe it, forward the link to a friend, and check out my fantasy books, the Kingdom Quest trilogies, available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Start with Tale of the Unlikely Prince. Actually get the whole set, the Storyteller's Tale and the Garden Tale. You can check them all out on Amazon or my author page, drbillsenior.com. I've also published a series for women's groups in spiritual formation called Dance Daughters to the Most High. It's going to be a 3-setter as well. The first set is already out. It's fun, informative, hopeful, great for small groups. Check it out, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and drbillsenior.com. Yeah, we'll see you next time on Vagabond Diaries. Take heart, child of God. Merry Christmas.
Now and it shows, he would say, that Pat Boone, he's so religious. I shook hands with that boy the other day. My whole right side sobered up. and I would repeat that in my act, and I said, it did. And then I'd go ahead and sing my song.
Pat Boone shares some of his incredible life story on The Walk, a podcast for worshipers. Join us weekly to hear conversations and devotionals from the artists of the church. The Walk can be found on lifeaudio.com, worshipleader.com, or your favorite podcast platform.